Spider-Man is about to become Dr. Octopus. This is the Amazing Spider-Man series, and when we last left off, Miss Marvel had died here saving Mary Jane. Well, now it's time for the Spider-Man adventures to continue, and today we're going to be exploring other elements that Zeb Wells has been bringing up. First off, we have Gold Goblin, which is a now good version of Norman Osborn. Recently, he was made completely sane, and to atone for his misdeeds, he has chosen to help Spider-Man. While he is on his redemption arc, though, we have Dr. Octopus, who just doesn't get it. You see, recently he was on his own redemption arc as the Superior Spider-Man, but that ended with him having to make a deal with the devil to save a woman. But the payment for saving the woman was to have his own memories of being a hero removed. So Dr. Octopus does not remember being the superhero Superior Spider-Man. And he doesn't get it, but Norman Osborn bothers him, and that's the plot of today's video. This is Comicstorian, where we bring you audio dramas of comic books so you know what to add to your collection. And today we're going to be covering Amazing Spider-Man 27, 28, 29, and 30. With the world mourning over the loss of one of the youngest heroes, no one was taking the passing of Kamala Khan harder than Peter Parker. She died saving him and MJ from the emissary, but it was a price that Peter had been struggling with. To try and loosen him up, Black Cat thought it would be fun to go out on patrol again to try and take his mind off of things. Except all it did was remind Peter that the life that they live is a dangerous one, and it could be taken away in an instant. Black Cat had planned a run-in with the Shocker, and after he realized that she had duped him into getting caught by Spider-Man, he swore that he'd kill them. Even just hearing the word kill set Peter off, and after knocking the Shocker out with one furious punch, Black Cat told him it was too soon to go back out. Besides, the city has been rather quiet after the emissary's attack. But it wasn't just Peter that was struggling. You see, not long ago, Norman Osborn faced a similar situation and was forced to end the life of Ashley Kefka, or as many others knew her, the Goblin Queen. His lawyers tell him that as far as the law is concerned, his actions were justified in stopping the insane woman. However, the thought of ending one's life still weighs heavy on the man who is trying to atone for all of the wrong that he has done. As for Peter, he decided that it would be best to turn in for the night, and he gets tucked into bed by an unlikely friend in the form of Otto Octavius's mechanical arms. The harness has quietly slipped into Peter's apartment and is gone before anyone notices, except there is one person who does notice: Otto himself. He confronts this rogue mechanical arm, asking what is going on. "Are you stepping out on me again? If you thought that I'd forgive your betrayal with the Sinister Six, I've got a surprise for you." Otto presses a button and the rogue suit is electrocuted and taken away. Later, Otto is examining the machine, stating that they used to be one and the same, yet somehow this set of arms has betrayed him to protect his greatest enemy. This wouldn't vex him as much if he could find a defect or a trace of tampering with these arms. The only idea that he has is that the affinity it has towards Spider-Man would come from Otto himself, but no, the answer is much simpler than that. They are broken, and these arms must be replaced by a system with redundancies. As Otto steps forward, he turns, placing his hand against another harness, and as it activates, it begins to suck in a green liquid. He says that he can feel his brain signals being filtered through a medium of self-validating nanofluids, a blockchain of consciousness. Each octoid containing a self-correcting copy of the whole, complete with his particular charms, which only leaves the old model with one purpose: to be destroyed! The next day, Peter goes to work, finding Norman staring at his gold goblin suit, asking if he's okay. Norman looks at his reflection, stating that he found Kamala had been snooping in on him right before he joined the fight with Rabbit. He chased her off, but something in him knew that she wasn't going to stay away, and he recognized something in her that he's always seen in Peter: the damn heroism. And now he recognizes something far less flattering about himself: a body count that seems to follow him around. If he had never been the Green Goblin in the first place, Kamala Khan would never have joined Oscorp to keep an eye on him. She never would have suspected his evil intentions. It's all his fault. Is that what Peter came to tell Norman? Peter looks at him. No, not at all. I came here to make sure you're okay, to make sure you can handle all of this, to make sure you don't, Is that what you do? You take responsibility for all of us. It must be exhausting, Peter. and it can't leave a lot of space for your own feelings. Peter stares off. Maybe, but I'm not going to let anything bad come out of her sacrifice. I owe her that much. Meanwhile, elsewhere, J. Jonah Jameson calls into the New York Bulletin looking at a picture of himself wearing Otto Octavius' arms, yelling, "I want a retraction, an apology! They're headed up hike. X-Men rampages. Where did they even get this photo? Who sold me out? Your paper is nothing but a trumped-up tabloid butt rag. Maybe Bigfoot couldn't take it to court, but I sure as hell can." Furious at the one time that the arms grabbed Jonah to try and get to Spider-Man, he throws the paper down, and at that moment there's a knock at the door. And as Jonah yells to them to hang on, he flings open the door, asking what is it. And it's then that he sees the mangled, half-destroyed mechanical harness that at one time worked with him, and tells the newspaper, "Allah, have to call you back." Later, Jonah rushes to Oscorp with the harness in a shopping cart, and he finds Peter skidding in. Look what they did to my boy!" Norman looks at the cart, asking if that's Otto Octavius' mechanical arms, but Peter asks what happened. Jonah says that he doesn't know. They just showed up at his doorstep like this. "Can you guys, fix them?" Norman quickly says absolutely not. "Those belong to Otto Octavius. Please remove them from this facility." Jonah then points his finger, shouting, "You heartless ghoul! What have these things ever done to you? They have tried to kill me. Many times. How come you're allowed to change, but these can't?" Peter tells him that he's right. These things are acting autonomously last time he saw them. They even saved his life. Can they at least try to save the arms? Norman rubs his brow. "Fine, take them to Lab 3. So a short while later, Peter steps into the lab and Jonah asks what happened. Is he okay? Peter tells him that Norman's just finishing up, but he has to ask. The last time that he saw him with the arms, they were holding Jonah hostage. Why save them? Jonah sighs and tells him, "Well, maybe they started coming around my place a bit more, just to stay out of the rain. Then maybe for a warm place to sleep. Maybe I tried to chase them off at first, but maybe I started looking forward to seeing the arms around." Peter laughs, telling him not to worry. The mechanical arms are in good hands. Meanwhile, in the lab, Norman is finishing up his repairs and snaps back in the final piece, and then he hears a soft buzz asking how they're feeling. The clamps on the harness come back to life, snapping it down and begin attacking. Norman shouts, asking what are they doing. He was trying to help, and as Norman backs off, the harness climbs down, walking over to the computer, and it plugs itself in. Moments later, all of the monitors read "System compromised." Outside, though, Otto begins walking up laughing. "It's about time that Norman learns his lesson on the dangers of taking in strays. And now for the second lesson. If you take from Otto Octavius, don't put your name on the building, not if you expect to keep it." As the Octoids begin to detach themselves, Otto begins to walk through the office, letting himself in. Norman tries to radio to Peter that the arms are a Trojan horse, that Otto's code is in the system, but Peter says that it's not just his code. Otto is here! Soon the doors of the lab are ripped off and Otto is met with Bug and shouts, "Dear sweet holy God!" What is that? As Bug returns, Peter jumps down. "That's Bug! Bug and I would like you to leave." Otto begins to laugh. "Never! Octoids swarm!" Soon the nanofluid begins to fill Lynx, reaching out, grabbing a hold of both Peter and Bug. But the ones on Bug begin to rip him apart, and he sighs, asking, "Why do I fix this thing anymore? Your machines are just playthings, trifles, while mine are engines of destruction." Soon, Otto begins to slam Peter against the walls over and over, and while the arms recoil around, Peter starts to try and say something. Otto lifts him up. "What is it? Come on, boys, speak up." Peter begins to mumble, but then a voice tells him that he was trying to say Norman, as in Osborn. Now wearing the Gold Goblin costume, Norman Osborn steps out, telling him, "I have 20 ways to make you put him down. Don't make me pick one." "I'm a curious cat, Osborn. Do your worst." Norman gets ready to attack, but then his suit freezes in place, and the computer tells him that the system has been compromised. The Gold Goblin suit begins to short out, and as Norman falls over, Otto looks back at Peter, asking if he can feel his power now. "Do you feel how insignificant you are?" Otto then tosses Peter away and turns his attention back to Norman. "I didn't forget what you did, what you took from me. Now just imagine all of the things that I'll be taking from you." A little while later, Peter is thrown into his apartment and J. Jonah Jameson climbs in with the mechanical arms, telling him, "You'll be safe here. Whatever Otto did to Oscorp's computer, they're going crazy." Peter begins to get back up, asking where did Otto take Norman? Does anyone know where he is? Elsewhere, Norman is forced to look through the old images of the Green Goblin, of all the things that he did, until finally Otto stops. That is enough. Norman struggles back to reality, asking what is Otto doing? Compelling images, aren't they, Mr. Osborn? Norman tells him, wait, those things, those were my memories. And Otto smiles. Yes, of your actions, a reminder of what you've taken from me. Otto turns it back. I have been on a journey of self-discovery, using this helmet the Beyond Corporation salved from Parker Industries. There are parts of my memory that have been taken from me, and I suspect something infuriatingly supernatural. I'd hoped this contained my memories. It did not, but it did hold a record of you, impossibly outsmarting me! But now the rules are reversed. Say it. Say you're ashamed. Norman stares for a moment. I'm ashamed. I appreciate the honesty. Now we can really get to work. Back with Peter, he paces in his apartment trying to think of where Norman could have been taken, stating that the arms have some idea as to where. Jonah tells him to take it easy on the arms. Looks like they're tuckered out. But Peter tells him that those arms are how Otto got access to Oscorp to begin with. Hey, I know these things, and there's no way they knew about that. At that moment, spikes begin to creep out of the seams of the harness, and suddenly the arms lunge at Peter, trying to bite off his head. He manages to throw them off, and as he gets ready to destroy them, Jonah stops him. Wait! Those aren't teeth, Peter. Those are... Okay, I don't know what those are. Peter takes a closer look. Those things might be the spinal cord interface. It must be how they connect to Otto Octavius' nervous system. Does the arms want to connect with you? Maybe, Jonah. Maybe. A little time passes and Jonah asks if they're going to do this. Peter tells him that they're talking about connecting his nervous system to the appendages of his greatest enemy. Give him a second. After taking a deep breath, he looks back. All right, I'm ready. Can't really make an omelet without jamming a few spikes into your spinal cord. Without warning, the harness jumps up, snapping onto Peter. He struggles to fight it off, and soon after flailing around for a little bit, the arms stop. All right, that's weird. Why do I feel like I missed these? Are you okay? I need some tools. Back with Norman, Otto continues to assault him, shouting that Norman is a fraud. Show him the goblin that is inside. And after being thrown into a computer, Norman tells him, the Green Goblin is gone. Why can't you accept that? Because I wasn't allowed to, Norman! If you truly freed yourself from the goblin, then that is what I will take from you. I will bring it out. As the Octoids begin to detach and skitter about, Norman wants to know what he's doing. The Octoids bring back a suitcase, and as Otto opens it, he shows it to Norman, telling him that he really hopes he convinced himself that he was good, because he's about to lose it. As Norman is set back in his chair, Norman tries to break free, telling him, "Don't do this! I was outsmarted, you won!" As Otto takes the needle with the goblin serum in it, Norman continues to beg him, and Otto says, "Why would I waste it? Do you know how hard this was to remake?" Norman begs him not to, and Otto injects him. As the latches on the chair go free, Norman falls to the ground. "You have no idea what you've done!" Oh yes I do. I'm showing the world that you haven't changed one bit, Norman." Norman begins to pound on the metal pillar and begins cackling. "You should have listened, because you're an idiot." Otto stares for a moment, and not getting the reaction that he wanted, he demands to know what is happening. "That was enough serum to turn an elephant." Norman smiles. "I already have double that running through my veins. My body has absorbed a massive amount over the years, and it's teeming with it. I've learned to manage it years ago. A buffoon like you can never dream of resurrecting it." Otto snaps back. "You will never call me a buffoon! If we were equals, you would be at my mercy, and that mercy has come to an end." Otto steps back, telling him that he hoped to take everything from him, his evil schemes, this silly idea that he was reformed. But he took that away from him by being the most boring, pathetic version of himself. So all he can do is take his life. Allow him to introduce the high-voltage coil powering his lab. Otto begins to push Norman towards the generator, but the doors fly open and Peter crawls in with Otto's old arms, asking, Did you think you could hide? Put Norman down! The Octoids set Norman down and Otto launches them, yelling, "Do not confuse my Octoids like that, Spider-Man!" Peter gets close to telling him, maybe they recognize the voice of true authority. And Otto inches back. Why do you sound like that? Why do you sound like me? Oh, you did it, didn't you? You spine-locked with my arms. Otto swings and Peter jumps back. The die is cast! And we will see who is truly superior. Otto yells that he cannot out-octopus him, dolt. And Peter attacks back. We shall see, dolt! Both pause for a moment and point, asking, who are you calling a dolt? You don't! Peter slams Otto into the ground, telling him that his arms gave him an advantage. But now that advantage is gone! Otto gets back up laughing. Haha, did you think that those arms were just raw power? You have fallen into my trap! He begins to push Peter back towards the generator, telling him not to be ashamed of his fate. He has been harvested by an apex predator. But as Peter struggles, the harness that he is wearing is open, and he can feel it telling him to save himself. Peter concentrates, forcing it back closed. No, we're in this together, and we're gonna beat him together. At that moment, Norman gets back to his feet, stating that they should have saved an arm for him because there's nothing stopping him now. Norman punches Otto, and the Octoids return, and Otto turns his attention to Norman, but before he can attack, Peter begins to pull the Octoids apart, telling him that he forgot about him as well. It must take a lot of concentration to keep a bunch of little yous working together, and I'm not gonna give you that chance, Otto. With no defenses left, Peter wraps one of the mechanical arms around Otto's neck, and he begins to squeeze. But before he could squeeze just a little too hard, Norman is the one that begins to yell out, "Whoa! Stop what you're doing, Spider-Man!" Peter blinks, looking at Norman, and then back to Otto. Oh, whoops! Let's go. He holds his arms up, stating that maybe he should take this thing off now. It might be having a bad influence on him. And as Norman goes to detach it, the arms smack him on their own. Peter yells to stop. It's time we go our separate ways. Otto used both of us, and when we're together, there's a little too much of Otto that shows up. It's not good for either of us, but that doesn't mean we can't be friends, okay? The arms politely nod, releasing their hold, and as it lets go, Norman shouts, "The Octoids! They've escaped with Otto!" Once Otto's feet are fully in, the latch slams shut, allowing Otto to escape. Later, Peter and Norman are looking over the city as Norman says not to beat himself up over it. The tunnels were designed for Otto to escape. Peter says that that's exactly it. In the end, Otto got him. No, he wanted us both dead, and he didn't get either of us. In fact, he gave us both a little gift. A much-needed distraction, Parker. Peter looks at Norman. Kamala? Yes, it's funny. In my days of evil, I never considered the people that I hurt, but now, I can't stop thinking of the things that she did. One time, she brought coffee to the lab. When she handed it over, she said, "Large coffee, extra serum." It was a terrible joke, and she was instantly embarrassed. But after that, every time I ordered coffee, I would ask for extra serum, and we'd both smile. I know that she was there to catch me in some nefarious plot, but I liked her, Peter. Maybe she liked me because she was good, and good is so much more interesting than evil. In the height of my madness, I thought the natural state of humanity was to exploit and abuse each other. But it seems that if two people spend enough time together, the much greater risk is that they become friends. Peter looks at Norman. I guess it helps if one of those people is Kamala. And Norman smiles. I guess so. And that gets us caught up on the current Amazing Spider-Man plot. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and don't forget to do all the awesome YouTube stuff. That means like hitting the like button, the subscribe button, and the usual stuff. And if you want early access, check out YouTube memberships. But let me know what you think down below of this storyline, and I'll see you next time right here.